Shalom, shalom, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pulse of Israel here in our eternal and ancestral homeland, the land of Israel, in our beautiful, biblical, eternal, and indivisible capital, Jerusalem, since King David's time. Today, I'm speaking with the founder, the head, the ideological man behind Israel 365, all the fabulous work he does for the land of Israel, for sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, and for strengthening the relationship between the Jewish community, Israel, and our Christian supporters around the world and in America. So everyone, let us welcome in Rabbi Tuli Weiss. Shalom, Reb Tuli. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Avi, for having me. It's an honor to be with you and the Pulse of Israel community.
The honor is all mine. You do great work, great outreach, great voice, getting the truth out there of Israel, and especially taking on with full force, pushing the truth about the necessity for the Jewish people finally to have sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. But even before we go there, we're now about to begin, and we're in the holiday of Passover, the holiday of redemption. And I know you're working on different programs also for people to be able to internalize the beauty and specialness of this holiday. So can we start with you are a rabbi, so it helps as well. We start with some good
Sure.
educational Passover messages.
Sure. Thank you. You know, everybody has Seder, and every Seder is different. Your Seder, I'm sure, is very beautiful. Our Seder is very beautiful, but it's beautiful in different ways. And there are themes, though, that run throughout everyone's Seder. And we wanted to keep the focus and the conversation this year on one of the most important themes that we're dealing with in Israel today, which is sovereignty. And just like the Bnei Israel, the ancient Israelites went from slavery to sovereignty, so too this is our chance this year to go from Seder to sovereignty. We created a sovereignty Seder guide that we distributed on our website and on other people's websites to encourage every family to talk about the important themes of sovereignty in the Seder. And we gave a number of ideas, cute ideas, family oriented steps that you could do, such as, instead of concluding the Seder with L'Shana Ba B'Yerushalayim, we encourage people to say L'Shana Ba B'Yerushalayim, Yehuda V'Shomron, that this should be the year for rebuilt Jerusalem, but also Judea and Samaria. We have a number of ideas like that. And we had people all over the world who were turning their Seder into a sovereignty Seder.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Yeah, and everyone knows here at the Pulse of Israel, we've been talking about the need for the Jewish people to finally act as sovereign truly via the Israeli government in Judea and Samaria for years. It's the right, moral, just, historic thing to do, and it's only a matter of time. I know I've been in Washington talking to politicians there, and again, when I go, I'm not asking them, "Oh, America, let us have sovereignty." No, it's about when we apply sovereignty, come out and support it because it's the right thing to do. So, with all of your efforts, where do you think things stand, and how things are going on that front?
Avi, there's never been a better opportunity. There's never been more momentum for sovereignty since any time since the Six-Day War as there is now. There's more momentum for sovereignty today than at any point since the Six-Day War. And that's happening mainly in Israel because, like you said, sovereignty is something that we have to do here in Israel. There's legislation in the Knesset, overwhelming support. And a friend of ours, Chaver Knesset member Ohad Tal, introduced the sovereignty bill in the Knesset, and there's tremendous support for it in the Knesset. At the same time, we have grassroots support in Israel against Palestinian statehood. Even the left in Israel no longer believes that there should be a Palestinian state. There's virtually no Jewish support anymore in Israel for a Palestinian state. Everybody has seen what Gaza led to, and God forbid if there was a Palestinian state in Judea and Samaria, October 7th would happen over and over again. So it's not only the right wing, the right who are saying that, even the left is realizing that today. And across the ocean in America, you have support on a political level. You have in the Senate, Congress, Senator Tom Cotton has legislation to recognize Judea and Samaria. Claudia Tenney in the House has legislation to support Judea and Samaria. There's a new Judea and Samaria caucus in Congress. So there's a lot of momentum, and we've been working on the grassroots side in both the non-Jewish community, but also in the Jewish community as well, trying to shift the American Jews to also recognize what we here in Israel see very clearly in front of us with our own eyes. But in America, they've drank the Kool-Aid for a long time, and they've really accepted the conventional wisdom of the two-state solution. There really hasn't been an alternative to that until recently. Ambassador Friedman wrote a book, The One Jewish State, and a lot of people started for the first time reading the book and thinking about what he is articulating, that a one Jewish state from the river to the sea will not only obviously be better for Israel and the Jewish people around the world, but it will also be better for the Palestinian Arabs. They don't want to live under the Palestinian Authority. They certainly don't want to live under Hamas, and therefore it's better for everybody. And people are starting to realize that, and we've been pushing that message hard within Israel 365, and specifically the new party that we formed called Israel 365 Action, that's running for election in the World Zionist Congress right now. That is the main central pillar of our party in Israel 365 Action, that that every American Jew has the opportunity to stop the Palestinian state. It just to vote for $5, 5 minutes of your time, you can help prevent a Palestinian state. And so we've been running in this election for the last couple of weeks. There's about 3 weeks left. The election ends on May 4th. And for all of your listeners in America, Jewish, who can vote, it's so important because this is a real tangible way of demonstrating that the American Jewish community supports Judea and Samaria and is strongly opposed to a Palestinian state.
Yeah, and before I continue, I get back to responding to your whole point about your Israel 365 Action Party in the World Zionist Congress to help put Judea and Samaria front and center as an issue. And going back to the messaging of the importance of sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, in addition to the benefit of Israel and the benefit for the Arabs who will live peacefully with us, I always tell everybody, and especially in Washington in my meetings there, is like, this is also good for America. You will only be safer from the growing Red-Green Alliance Islamo-Nazi terror if Israel is safe as we're the front line. So when we're finally safe and we're finally in control of Judea and Samaria, that also helps America be safer. And then everyone asks, okay, what about the Arabs there? I'm like, okay, well, you have Trump's immigration plan for Gaza for anyone who wants to kill us. Same thing for Judea and Samaria. It's that simple. And anyone who wants to stay and live in peace and understand how blessed they are to live with the Jews as Israeli Arabs live as citizens with full rights, understanding how blessed they are that they don't have any of those rights anywhere else in the Middle East, then we have a solution. We just have to work in that direction. And going in terms of the importance of your platform, I want to emphasize for everyone, and I'll just tell you this. I also interviewed Yaakov Chagoel, who is the chairman of the World Zionist Congress and representative of the ZOA slate running in the elections. And he told me the importance of voting for one of the right-wing parties, whether ZOA, whether Israel 365 Action, but one of the religious or right-wing parties in the World Zionist Congress. It's essential because he told me that just this past year, after October 7th, the Jewish political left parties in the World Zionist Congress were against money going to purchase equipment to rapid response teams and communities in Judea and Samaria. That's how important it is having votes like yours and parties like yours in the World Zionist Congress together with the ZOA list and the other lists to form this coalition to ensure that those left wing parties in the Jewish world that, yes, they're part of the Jewish world and we have to listen to them, we have to respect them. But in terms of defending all of Israel, they missed the boat. They're not defending all of Israel. They're not defending all of the Jewish people. They have a dividing line because of their ideology. And it's only lists like Israel 365 Action and ZOA and Mizrahi and some of the others of the right wing religious coalition who will use their votes in the World Zionist Congress and funding to ensure that all Jews are protected, including Judea and Samaria, and not treat us like second-class citizens. So it goes right to the importance of your party putting Judea and Samaria on the as a central pillar of your platform.
Yeah, in the last election 5 years ago, so the largest party in America was Reform, and they got about 30,000 out of the 120,000 votes. About 25% of the votes went to Reform, and they spend millions of dollars on the campaign.
And again,
And
just clarifying for people, that's Reform Judaism. That's not like a Reform party to reform things. It's a Reform Judaism party.
right. Yeah, it's actually the name of the party is, yeah, whatever, Reform Judaism. You're right. And so and it's all over their literature in this election as well, that they're pushing for a Palestinian state. They're pushing for a two-state solution. After October 7th, when no one in Israel is arguing on behalf of a Palestinian state, yet the largest party in the World Zionist Congress is pushing for a two-state solution, shows that major disconnect that reform movement in America has with what's going on, the reality on the ground here in Israel. And you got to wonder, like, what is really their agenda and what makes them, why are they still pushing this
Relevant.
fantasy? Are they relevant? And they're pushing this dangerous fantasy that, if only we give the Palestinians a state, then everything is going to be fine. We haven't seen any evidence of that. We've only seen the opposite. And these are the same people who, have been really fighting President Trump on, for example, he nominated Mike Huckabee, a major supporter of Israel, Christian Zionist, and the same party sent letters to every senator demanding that they don't support Huckabee's nomination. And Huckabee's still not here. I mean, it's April, right? And we don't have an ambassador. One of the reasons is because of this vocal left-wing Jewish movement against Huckabee and against what Huckabee supports, namely Judea and Samaria. And so they don't represent the Zionist Israelis, and they're causing a lot of damage. And a lot of your listeners probably don't think that this is so important, and they haven't voted in the past, and like, oh, it's confusing and it's complicated, but it's really important to demonstrate that after October 7th, we are no longer going to entertain this dangerous fantasy of a two-state solution, and we could change the reality for good and forever. We could expand the boundaries and the borders of the state of Israel for good and forever. And that's what we're pushing for at Israel 365 Action.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing, not just as a Jew, but as a human being, what hurts the most is to understand that ultimately these people who represent this party and and that represent that position that again is translated into action, into actually voting against providing rapid response equipment for fellow Jews to protect themselves against an enemy who showed the whole world how brutal and barbaric and what I call Islamo Nazis they are on October 7th. They literally prefer not allowing us to defend them. They do not care about their fellow Jews. And forget about Judea and Samaria. We're not able to protect ourselves in Judea and Samaria. We're not able to protect the Jews in Tel Aviv and Kfar Saba and Netanya and Haifa, etc., etc. So it's a real disconnect in their head where they've allowed their ideological agenda, which drives their identity, to cloud their even emotional thinking and caring for fellow human beings and fellow Jews. So again, yes, everyone listening, it is important to register. You pay $5 to vote in this very important election so that you can have a voice in how decisions are made regarding world Jewry and Israel. And Israel 365 Action is one of the parties and that you can vote for.
Yeah, and we've made it very easy. Just go to our website, Israel365action.com, and you could register there, and we walk you through the voting process. But it's really, you can't really blame the reform movement for sticking to their ideology. They've always been anti-Zionist from the very beginning. They've always been a reaction to Zionism. Zionism was the national movement of the Jewish people and encouraging immigration to Israel. And they basically started around the same time and were very opposed to the Zionist movement, always from the very beginning, because they wanted to be good German citizens and they wanted to be able to live comfortably in France and then in America, and were not supportive of Herzl from day one. So you can't really fault them for sticking to their beliefs. They have been very proud of their anti-Zionism for over 100 years. The frustration is really with the people who are maybe listening to this conversation and saying, I agree with everything that you're both saying, but haven't actually taken a step to vote because it's so important to let your voice heard. If you really want to push back on these terrible anti-Zionist ideologies that really endanger the lives of the people in Israel. So you got to vote. And this is your opportunity to do so, especially for those who don't live in Israel and are not a part of the democratic process here in Israel. But the World Zionist Congress is the parliament of the Jewish people. Every Jew in America can vote in the American Zionist movement's election and really needs to do so because we can't just complain and kvetch about, oh, these terrible woke leftists if we aren't getting in the ring ourselves. And so we see the engagement this time around is double from the election 5 years ago.
I heard it's even more than double.
More than double. Yeah, yeah. It's off the charts, which means that as of now, something like 100,000 Jews have voted already. So on the one hand, yay and wow, and that's great. But there's 7 million Jews in the United States, and about 2 million Jews or so voted for Trump. 40% of the Jews voted for Trump. There's 2 million conservative leaning right wing Jews in America. And, we're really the party that is advocating peace through strength, just like Trump. We're fighting also this deep state, just in the way that Trump is exposing and fighting against the deep state. There is a deep state in Israel as well, and we're fighting against. So we're very aligned with the MAGA sort of uh, ideology and trying to bring some of that to Israel to strengthen Israel with peace through strength. We're also, the other important part of our platform is the importance of strengthening relationships between Jews and Christians. Because after October 7th, you saw all of Israel's so-called friends around the world abandon Israel. It wasn't just the Biden administration, but Europe abandoned Israel, and a lot of countries then piled on to criticize Israel. As we all know, the only reliable friends that Israel has today are countries where you have a very strong Christian population. And those relationships between Israel and our Christian friends are becoming a matter of national security. And it's imperative that the Zionist movement doesn't do more things to alienate our Christian friends, but to reach out to our Christian allies and to really expand the number of Zionists around the world. Today, most Zionists on the weekend are not in synagogue, they're in church. And that's the reality. And we need to encourage that. We need to appreciate that, understand it, not be afraid of the fact that Christians believe different things than Jews believe. That's okay. And we're only scratching the surface of what we could accomplish if the Zionist movement realizes how important this is, and we start doing more outreach to encourage more Christian Zionism around the world, think about how strong Israel will be if all of the Christians, there's 2 billion Christians in the world, if the Christians really start embracing Israel and Zionism as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, the same way that we religious Zionist Jews understand our role in Israel as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. We say that in our prayers, Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu, that Israel is the first flowering of our redemption. Christians believe the exact same thing, that it is the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. And if we're able to ignite that spark in the hearts of our non-Jewish friends all over the world, think about how strong Israel will be going forward.
Yeah, and just to strengthen what you're saying, as someone who's very attuned to the American politic and the culture of America, more and more we are seeing that even within the right-wing conservative Republican movement in America, there is growing Jew hatred and growing anti-Israelism. And Jews and especially Trump supporters can't think, oh, Trump's president, the Republicans are in power, everything's great, and the future's great for American Jews and support for Israel. Not at all. Just like it took years for that anti-Israelism, Jew hatred to grow and become establishment in the Democratic Party, we're seeing that process begin, and it's very scary, and it's a tsunami, even though it's on a low flame, taking place within the Republican Party right now. And hence, any work that can be done to strengthen any of our friends and allies with, again, the understanding it's not just to help Israel and the Jews, but the Jews were the canary in the coal mine. So if you want to save America, you got to stop the anti-Semitism, the anti-Israelism to save America. And I think that's a good place to stop, just with a final Passover, Pesach message. So, any final thought you want to give across?
Well, the message of Pesach, there's a lot of messages of Passover, but one that has really struck me this year is if you think about the last step before the Jewish people left Egypt, what do they have to do? They had to take the Egyptian god, the lamb, and they had to leave it outside their homes for 4 days and then slaughter the false Egyptian god. What tremendous courage that required for the Jewish people to do right before earning their independence and earning their freedom and earning their sovereignty. This is the same challenge of our generation. We have to dig deep and be courageous right now. And we have to slaughter the false gods that have been confusing us and leading us astray for decades in order to overcome that fear, in order to finally achieve freedom, independence, and sovereignty. God willing, Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim, Yehuda v'Shomron.
Amen. And yes, what I like to tell people is that this Passover, this Pesach holiday, the holiday of redemption, understand we're not just celebrating the history and the historical story and saying thank you to God for what he did for us back then or for saving us in every single generation from our enemies. But as you were alluding to this, today we are living our modern redemption story. And we just have to take a step back, not be demoralized or depressed by the headlines or the sad things that we've experienced and continue to experience, but take the bigger picture perspective and see, oh my God, look where we are as a Jewish people. Look where we are in this war against all odds. Look where we are in terms of taking on the deep state within to really achieve true independence as our Jewish people, as sovereign in our ancestral homeland, to be the blessing to humanity. So it's just unbelievable times. And Chag Kasher v'Sameach, Reb Tuli, thank you so much.
Thank you, Avi. And again, it was such a pleasure to have this great conversation with you.
It is always a pleasure talking and seeing you, Reb Tuli. And everyone, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this talk. First of all, you have your marching orders. Everyone, you're Jewish. You have a say in the future of decisions regarding Jewish people, funding for programs for the Jewish people in Israel. All you have to do is register to vote. I think just Google AZM elections, World Zionist Congress elections, register. It's $5. That's all it is. and then you register, and immediately you can vote. Israel 365 is Action is one of those parties you can vote for. And again, as long as we're voting for any of those parties in this right-wing religious coalition, that's what we need. We need to have enough of these votes to partner and ensure the decisions and the money go towards protecting all Jews and all the land of Israel. Signing off for another episode of the Pulse of Israel here in our eternal and ancestral homeland, the land of Israel, in our beautiful, biblical, eternal, and indivisible capital, Jerusalem, since King David's time. If you are not yet a subscriber, what are you waiting for? You get a daily belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect truth about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world. Just go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe. And yes, we are a donor-based operation. We need your support as we're heavily censored across social media. It's thanks to your donations that we're able to do our work and get our videos seen. So every once in a while, just go to pulseofisrael.com and click on the donate button. Shalom, everyone. Chag Kasher V'Sameach, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.